Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I rise to make my contribution in relation to this. But, Madam Speaker, before I start, I just want to make it very clear that I am completely disgusted and offended by the words Member for Johnson just spoke about police not being trustworthy. My father was a police officer. How dare you say he's not trustworthy? Shame. Madam Speaker, Member for Berkeley is a police officer. I know he's offended by your words. Are you going to apologise to him? Are you saying he's not trustworthy? How embarrassing.
Member for
disgusting.
Nelson, direct your comments through me, please.
Sorry, Madam Speaker.
I appreciate your
I'm just getting very fired up that how dare she call the police untrustworthy. The police are the first person to run into danger. They're the first person Territorians call when there's a problem. I bet you the Member for Johnson's called the police. I bet you one of her friends has called the police, and yet she stands here and says they're not trustworthy. And she used the words, police agents of injustice. The police are agents of injustice. That's embarrassing, Madam Speaker. The police do a great job, and I want to say, as I calm down a little bit, that I support the police completely, 100%. I know people on this side of Parliament support the police 100%. They do a great job. They have had their hands tied by the former Labor government. They haven't been able to do their job properly. And now, Madam Speaker, we've unshackled the police. They're out there doing their job and they're keeping the community safe. Keeping the community safe, Madam Speaker, and that is what Territorians want. Madam Speaker, I know that many people on this side, and I am sure, as I'm standing here, that people have been into the people on the other side's office and say the community is unsafe. We are out of control. And Madam Speaker, yet the Member for Johnson is here calling the police untrustworthy. And Madam Speaker, I hope the police listen to that, and I hope that they hear what she said, and I hope, Madam Speaker, that she sits up there and reads about herself and looks herself in the mirror and goes, gee, I should be embarrassed, because she should be, Madam Speaker. Those words are disgusting, and I'm personally offended by them. Madam Speaker, and again, I've just spoken to the Member for Berkeley. He is personally offended by them. How dare someone call someone in this chamber untrustworthy, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we do not support the proposal into Commonwealth Oversight for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islands for police in prison custody. Madam Speaker, every death in custody is a tragedy. And I wish to begin by expressing this government's sincere condolences to the families and the communities of loved ones lost. The loss of life while in care of the state warrant thorough review and continuing reform, Madam Speaker, and we believe that the current framework, built on territory accountability, rigorous oversight, is both appropriate and effective. Madam Speaker, in the Northern Territory, every death in custody is subject to a coroner's investigation, accompanied by independent police inquiry, Madam Speaker. So there's two oversight bodies that look at these deaths in custody. Madam Speaker, these processes aren't just token processes just to see what happens, Madam Speaker. The police do a great job. They are thorough. They investigate, no matter who it is, Madam Speaker, because they're there to look after Territorians. They swear an oath, Madam Speaker, to serve and protect, and that's what they do, Madam Speaker. We've had reviews. We've talked about health. We've talked about infrastructure. We've talked about training that's happened as a result of these reviews. So when the Member for Johnson says nothing's happened, enough's enough, things are happening, Madam Speaker. Things do happen. Madam Speaker, there have been many improvements over the correction system stemming from these coronial recommendations, demonstrating that there is local oversight and the chain is working here. Madam Speaker, recent data says our prison population in the Territory is about 2,850 individuals, with approximately 80% of those identify as Indigenous. Madam Speaker, it's important to acknowledge that most Aboriginal deaths in custody in the Northern Territory are due to medical conditions, not suicide or violence. Medical conditions, Madam Speaker, and I'm not sure where the Member for Johnson got her numbers from. Maybe she's plucked them out of the air, but Madam Speaker, over the last 5 years there's been 38 deaths in custody, with 26 of those in the Northern Territory being Indigenous and 12 non-Indigenous. Madam Speaker, while Indigenous people make up the most of our population, non-Indigenous prisoners experience a higher likelihood of death in custody overall, with their rate being 1.8 times higher than Indigenous people. So, Madam Speaker, perhaps this should say about, if she's really honest with herself, about deaths in custody, full stop. Why are we limiting it to one one person, one group of people? Why aren't we giving it to all Territorians? Does the member for Johnson think that that Territorians are unequal, or there's a divide? Do you think that, Madam Speaker? Well, no, there's not. If you're a Territorian, you're a Territorian. If you're an Australian, you're an Australian. I'm not sure why the member for Johnson is trying to divide the Northern Territory. Madam Speaker, out of those deaths I spoke about, 25 were due to natural causes. 5 were due to suicide, 2 Indigenous and 3 non-Indigenous. And those natural causes, Madam Speaker, are preceded by long, extended periods of diagnosed and managed illnesses under the care of the corrections. These deaths are not sudden deaths or unexplained deaths. They are a result, Madam Speaker, of long-standing health conditions, Madam Speaker. In fact, Madam Speaker, I have to say from my experience, people go into the correction system and actually come out more healthier people. They actually get the medication. They get access to health care. They get access to rehabilitation programs. They get access to counsellors, which is something that they choose not to when they're out in the community. For some reason, people choose not to go and get medical help, Madam. That wouldn't be me, but some people choose not to do that, and then they don't get. So when they do get into custody, they've got these very serious health issues, and their treatment needs to be done. But unfortunately, sometimes the conditions are so far advanced that nothing can be done. As I'm saying, Madam Speaker, once someone is in custody, our correctional health teams provide constant care that is not accessed for some reason through their own choice out in the community, and no matter where they live. We've got the member for Berkeley, the Health Minister, does a great job of providing healthcare right across the Northern Territory. Madam Speaker, deaths in custody, suicides are tragic, and the families out there are hurting. But, Madam Speaker, so do the correctional staff, Madam Speaker. These people who are, the member for Johnson just refers to, aren't just numbers to those correctional officers. They're people they know, people they can talk to. Sometimes they come in and out of custody, they know who they are. I'm not going to say they're friends, but they're acquaintances, they talk, they know their background, and yet these people pass away, Madam Speaker. So I know that the statistics are bad, but compared to other jurisdictions, our system is performing better than most in the Northern Territory. I know the Territory has the highest imprisonment rate in the country, and still our deaths in custody remain lower than those in other states and territories. Madam Speaker, one thing I think can be overlooked sometimes is the strength of our correction system and the high standard of medical care provided to those prisoners. So, Madam Speaker, I've been into the prison, I've walked through the health medical centre. I understand, I see how they work, I speak to the nurses who work there, I speak to some of the inmates. They get their treatment, they get their medication, and I'm sure Member Hughes for 18 years knows exactly what I'm talking about. If anyone in this chamber would be an expert in the prison, would be my friend. Madam Speaker, tragically, when people get released, they disengage from medical care, and that's another reoccurring challenge. They come into the custody, they get provided health care, they get their treatment, they take the medication, and again they get released, and for some reason they choose not to do that. Madam Speaker, so I'm going to go back to the emotional toll on the correction staff and the health staff that deal with these people. Having anyone die in your care would be devastating, and I'm sure they're deeply affected by those deaths. So, Madam Speaker, the corrections officers aren't just faceless agents of a system. They're professionals committed to safety, dignity and rehabilitation, and they do a great job, and I give them my 100% support, Madam Speaker. They work in a very challenging environment, and we're here to support them. Madam Speaker, I just want to close by saying we are doing the work. We're doing it with resolve. We're trying to make sure that prisoners break the cycle of reoffending, go out in the community, better people, healthier people, and the administration of that justice is a core responsibility of this government, and we take it seriously. And we do listen to recommendations of these oversight bodies. They're already there. Madam Speaker, if we're going to spend money, we don't have a limited amount of money, and I know the member for Catherine spoke about that, but we were left a horrific debt by the previous Labor government. So, Madam Speaker, if you're going to create a body to oversight this, What do you have to cut, Madam Speaker? Are you going to cut the health system? Are you going to cut the education system? Are you going to cut the police system? You have to balance things up here, Madam Speaker. So what are we talking about? What are we going to cut to have this body that has already got two other bodies? We've got the coronials and the police. So a third oversight body when we have to cut maybe teachers or health staff or police, or don't give the police an extra patrol car to go out on the road. Madam Speaker, it is a balance. It's a very difficult balance to work, but the Northern Territory Government, this side of government, is about making decisions for the best interests of Territorians, no matter where you live. So, Madam Speaker, we won't be supporting this motion.